Well, g'day and welcome back to the Careers in Agriculture podcast, brought to you by Humans of Agriculture. If there's one thing that I know is going to be super beneficial for both businesses and candidates in Australian agriculture is getting kind of beyond words on the page. So we wanted to lean into what we know works and what we do really well. And that's obviously podcasts, getting to know people and dissecting more about who they are, why they do what they do. Now, when we tie that to careers in agriculture, we know how vitally important it is for people to understand as much as they can before they hit apply on a job ad. So the Careers in Agriculture podcast is basically our chance to interview the interviewer. And so today I'm sitting down with Tom Newton. He's the General Manager, Sales and Operations with Maxum Foods. He's been with the business for more than 20 years and has seen it evolve over that time. The role they're looking for is for a regional sales manager with MaxCare, a business that's leading the way in infant animal nutrition. Tom's background, well, he grew up on a farm in southern Queensland. He went and studied agronomy, went back farming for a little bit, but it's really been his love of people that has brought him into the agribusiness side, supporting both farmers and people across all stages of their career to help in the ways that they support animal nutrition. So this role, and over the next 20 or so minutes, I'm chatting with Tom about a little bit about him and his background, a little bit about the business, but more specifically about the types of people that are going to thrive, the types of people that they really want to help develop. And there's a few things that really stand out about this business, but more than anything, I'd say taking a job with MaxCare, it's a real investment in yourself. Not only do they offer different forms of coaching, they're really helping you and trying to help you set yourself up to succeed both in your career, but also your personal life as well. And I think that's a huge thing that is so special about this business and a potential career. So enjoy the chat, and all the details about this role are in the show notes, and you can find out more on our website, humansofagriculture.com. Cheers. It's been a little bit of time since we had the Careers in Ag podcast up and going, and it's something which I think I've looked at, so Tom, for your reference, I've looked at on the sidelines. If I go back 2 years, I was like, this was one of the things that I was like, this is our point of difference. But there's a bloke today I'm sitting down with, Tom Newton from MaxCare, and we chatted probably, well, it was the start of 2024 at the Australian Dairy Conference. Mate, your energy as an MC is something that I'm truly envious of. So I'm excited to have you on for a chat.
Oh, thanks, Ol. No, well, mate, I'm fortunate enough to see you interview Ned Brockman that day. So, mate, likewise, appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, man, I think it's a pretty cool, mate, it's a pretty cool idea, this one. So it'd be good to see how it goes.
Firstly, Tom, I want to ask you, because last time we were chatting, you were just about to go and talk to some students at Longronog, and I reckon you were one of the most excited people in Australian agriculture with that opportunity. Like, what is it about bringing the next generation in, but especially agriculture, that just makes you so passionate and energized?
Oh, thanks, Ol. Well, yeah, mate, I was excited. I just thought that initially I just found it quite ironic that I was getting asked to go and speak to a group of graduates after probably only just graduating myself through ag college. So, but I think for me, it just comes from, so born and bred in southern Queensland, and mum and dad are both generational, sort of from generational farms. Mum from central Queensland, dad on the property that I grew up on. And they were just always, dad was very involved in agri-politics and but both just very engaged in primary production generally. So it just stemmed from that, and they were very big on, well, we didn't really have a choice, but we were just very involved in the family business right through, like every school holidays, every day after school, like if shearing was on or something, you were just there. So it just came from that, and I don't know, I've just never actually thought about working in any other industry. Like, it's just always been something I've loved, so I've just always been involved in it.
And so, having grown up on a farm, like, what was it that's pulled you down? I'll say more of the agribusiness side, but still dealing with farmers every day.
Yeah, it's just, I love the people side of it, Olin. I did actually spend a bit of time, like I worked sort of first year out of school, went jackarooing, and then I actually ended up, after doing went to ag college and then did 4 years of agronomy, I actually ended up going back to the family farm. And I remember mum and dad just said to me one day, they just said, one of the things I love is dealing with people. And they just said, you're a bit wasted here. Like, as in, that might have been code for you're also not very handy or very practical. But yeah, it's just something I've always enjoyed, the challenge of trying to, you know, understand people and work with people. So I guess that was probably the main driver. And I suppose I wasn't sure that I was going to be the best farmer, but I just knew that that was something I was really passionate about. So I thought, well, if I'm not going to be actually farming, you know, this is the next best thing.
Totally. So tell me a little bit about MaxCare. And I love the idea of if we're jumping on the ground floor, we've got 20 floors to go up. So we've got a minute or so. Explain to me the business in about 60 seconds.
Oh, well, first and foremost, we specialise in infant animal nutrition. That's what I'd open with. And then from there, I'd say, you know, we work with, so mate, we want to be the trusted advisor in infant animal nutrition. So we work with farmers to help them get the best possible results they can with young animals. We do that by providing a range of milk replacers, so which is part of the pre-weaning diet phase. But probably more importantly, when you deal with MaxCare, you know, you should expect to get a quality product, but the other thing we offer is an exceptional level of service and support to help farmers get those results. So don't know whether that gets us to the top floor, mate, but that'd probably be what I'd say.
It got us pretty close and it's giving me a few more questions. One of the things I've noticed in the job ad, you referenced the company as a sheep, which I reckon it's pretty unique, but I'm curious to know more.
Yeah. Oh, this comes from when we set the business up, we engaged a marketing company. And one thing, you know, we went out and saw a number of potential customers and clients, and in the business we work in, so we're dealing with infant animals, and if we look at our business, like 95% of it is calves, so we're dealing with calves, and of that, probably at least 80% is dairies. So we're dealing with predominantly dairy replacement heifers. So I suppose our end user, ultimately the calf, is predominantly female. But then, as a generalisation, the majority of people who are feeding those calves are also female, and the people who are making the decisions around that, whether it be the financial or the way that those, or, you know, or nutritional or whatever, that the person making that decision is predominantly driven by females. So I suppose we're very conscious that we need to sort of run our business and structure our business in a way that is respectful of that, and, you know, where I suppose, you know, trust been a real cornerstone, and compassion and things like that. So that's why we sort of structured it to look like a female, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I really like it. And it makes so much sense when you think about who you're actually, who you're serving, but also what you're serving in terms of that infant animal.
Yeah.
Mate, so you're obviously passionate about the people. Tell me a little bit more about the team that you guys have got, and what is it like? What kind of characteristics is a MaxCare person?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. All reflecting on this, because if I look at the people in our business who've been really successful and who really, I suppose, and being successful is predominantly being able to resonate with farmers, are the people who are passionate about what they do. So, you know, the people who care. So, you know, part of the whole MaxCare, like I suppose our brand archetype is that caregiver archetype. So we actually need to care about what we're doing. So yeah, the people who are really successful in the business are the people who are passionate about what we do and who really care for the outcomes, not only for the business, like absolutely that's important, but just as important is the outcomes that our farmers get, because with the products we sell, it's not just a one sale and then move on. It's, you know, we're hopefully dealing with these farmers through the year, every year for a number of years.
Yeah, which is so important. The team itself. So like, if you just to give me a bit of a run through, you guys are kind of growing up a little bit as well at the moment. So just in understanding that kind of dynamic, what's it like in the business at the moment, and why does that actually make it like pretty exciting, but also an interesting time to join?
Yeah, I suppose also the business as a whole, so Maxum Foods, we're only sort of 22 years old, so it's still a relatively young business, but I've been fortunate enough to be in it for sort of a good chunk of that, for sort of 18 and a half years. And it's grown, you know, since then to now we've got, you know, over 60 employees, and within MaxCare, you know, we've got, you know, 10. So it's, as much as it's a small team, it's growing. The good thing about what's happening with the business is, say we're growing up a bit, like we've just, you know, for instance, employed our first CEO. What that's allowed us, I think, one of the things we've loved in our business is the flexibility, and, we can kind of follow, where we need to go, but it has given us a lot more clarity and alignment, if that makes sense, and probably something, that sounds simple, but it's really important. And so the thing that gets me really excited now is we've sort of got the business to a point, and if we go back to MaxCare, we've been in the market for 10 years in Australia, well, 11 years, like we've got the business to a certain point, but we just know there's so much more runway. And that's not just with what we're doing. We just think with infant animal nutrition in general, we think there's a lot of upside to how we can help farmers and how we can help the industry and the opportunities for the industry off the back of that. So yeah, that's what gets me really excited about it.
And so the role we're talking about, the regional sales manager, is directly in your team. What's the impact, and what are they going to add to the Maxum, or the broader Maxum team, but actually the MaxCare business?
Yeah, I suppose if we look at it at the local level, so again, we've kind of got an established business now, so 11 years, but this role really has the opportunity to put us, I suppose, a stamp on what we do. So as we've, when the business started, it was just me, and we've kind of grown. And, I don't have a great nutritional background, so I couldn't go on a farm and really help a farmer get better results. I could say, look, this is a product we've got, and work through that side of it. But what it allows is, this role allows someone to work really closely with farmers to help them, drive better performance, drive better outcomes for their business, and ultimately, ours, I suppose. Well, that's the flow on. But with that, it sort of allows them to put their own stamp sort of with their own clientele, but also within the industry. So I do think, the Australian industry's calling out for some leadership in the infant animal nutrition space. There's some great people in it, but there's so much, as I said before, there's so much runway for improvement. I just think there's a great opportunity for someone who really wants to put their hand up and get into it.
And so there's a couple of things I think I've picked up on. So one, you haven't had a background in nutrition, your actual background in agronomy, and you've kind of landed on your feet in this space. There's the nutrition aspect, there's the sales aspect, and then there's relationships. So if you just say, oh, we're looking for a type of person, is there one like characteristic that they're going to have, or skill that's going to bring them to the fore, or is it pretty broad?
Oh, you could say it's broad, mate, but if there's one characteristic, and this is very much part of what we call the Maxum Foods DNA, is persistence. And I'd probably, if I was to couple it with this role, I'd say, and I said it before, is around passion. Like you've got to be passionate about what you do. Like we work with farmers, and farmers are extremely passionate about what they do, and you've got to be able to match that. But yeah, the persistence piece is big in that, this isn't a business that kind of gets handed to you. Like sales and ag sales can be challenging. There's, you're on the road, you're knocking on doors, you've just got to have the ability to keep going and yeah, I suppose, the ability to, keep going and never giving up. And that's just always been something that's been part of the DNA at Maxum.
And so there's a real key part here around initiative, but also having that freedom. And then how are you guys going to match that with the support? So it's like someone comes in really eager, but also, that they don't just run kind of flat into a brick wall and get dented a bit early.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Ol, and probably something we haven't done well in the past is that support piece. I think we sort of go, oh, well, you want autonomy, there you go, and kind of let people go. But there definitely needs to be support around that. And that's something we're working hard on, is to provide we talk about having a safe, supportive environment where people are empowered to do their role. So, just putting better support around them within training. So there's a couple of things we do as a team. As much as we're all remote, we catch up as a team once a week. We have kind of one-on-one meetings with all the team to make sure they're, number one, they're sort of comfortable in their day-to-day role, but they also have the support, but also just to give that outlet of just chatting a bit about, what you do on your weekend, what's happening at home, how's all that going. But I suppose outside of that, the other thing we do is we try and throw in quite a bit of personal development. So, we do quite a bit of sales training, but also personal development stuff, whether that be negotiation training or actually working on yourself. So, each of our team have access to a I suppose, a life coach as such, which is amazing. Like that includes me, and that's been life changing for me, and both professionally and personally. So that's the sort of support we've tried to put around people, as well as just the obvious kind of training we need to give people around the products, the services, the support that we offer.
Mate, I love that. That is it's pretty unique, but it's bloody cool, and I think it's a pretty good point of difference as well to go, okay, well, we know that the more we invest in the people, the better the individual is, the better the benefit's going to be kind of to the business the whole way through, and whether they stay with us forever or actually they move on, they're going to leave a better person, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is, mate, and I think it's something that the guys, the directors of the business, Ben, Dave, and Dustin, have always been really big on is that helping people grow and helping people evolve. So that personal development piece. And yeah, sometimes that means people grow and evolve out. But most of the time, it's meant that people have grown and evolved within the business and sort of developed within the business. So it's, it works both ways. Yeah. But it's just great to see people it is great to see that evolution in people as they work through.
All right. So I want to, this is a bit of an activity, which I thought I sent to you before. We've got 3 resumes in front of us. So I think this will be a bit of fun. So the first one we look at, you're keen and you want to bring this person in for an in-person interview. What traits, experiences, and characteristics does this first one have?
Yeah, I'm going to say it again, mate. I just want to see someone with a bit of persistence. And how do you gauge that on a resume? It's not easy, but I probably look at that and go, they've had some challenging roles maybe within their sort of experiences, and they've stuck to it for a period of time. Mate, I think also that hunger to learn is important. So again, how do you see that on a resume? Not so easy, but potentially people taking on roles where they don't, which probably doesn't fit, but then they've stuck with it again, which shows persistence, but also shows they're probably willing to learn and kind of and evolve. And also on a resume, I just always like to see some outside interest, whether it be sport, whether it be community. It's just seeing people who are engaged within their community. I find looking at resumes really challenging, but they're probably 3 things that we look for.
Yeah, I love that. A good question which I've had asked to me was like, what do you do for fun? Like, because I think if you look at especially some of these high achieving type people, you look at it and you go, wow, it's like, what do you actually do for fun? And honestly, when I first got asked that probably 2 years ago, it completely stumped me because I was like, oh, I need to work on that.
And mate, it's a really good question because you get a bit tied up in the whole work piece, don't you?
Yeah. You can. Resume 2, and I think this is a really important question. This person's not a fit for the role or the company. What kind of characteristics might they have?
It's a good one. Mate, I think for me, if I'm, and again, I probably think about this as if I'm looking at a resume, it's generic and not targeted towards. So probably one of the first things, and again, this might sound a bit harsh, but if I get sent a cover letter and it just says, "To whom it may concern," I kind of almost put it straight in the bin because I just go, well, they haven't even researched who's hiring them. So anything that's a bit generic. I think the thing I mentioned before about multiple roles, like I love people who've got experience, but I think if they've had multiple roles and haven't stuck to anything for any period of time is always a bit of a red flag. And sure, in some cases that might sound a bit harsh because they mightn't have found what they like, but at the same time too, I think it's important that you've got to show a bit of grit and stick with stuff, whether you like it or not, to grow. So that's probably, and the other bit is, and again, this doesn't come through in a resume so much, but probably the other thing that is if people are going, if often one of the first questions you get asked by the wrong person is, how much money are you going to pay me? And don't get me wrong, the money piece is really important. I totally get that and got to get that right. But that's when I often think people are coming for the wrong reasons if they're coming for money. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third resume we've got, it's one that we're sitting on the fence with. The person potentially could take a bit of investment, but yeah, this person's probably sitting in the camp of maybe I should apply, maybe I shouldn't. What are we going to throw out to get them over the line here?
Yeah, I like this one. I think I'm a bit of a sucker for this one too, because how does someone get experience, and how does someone get an opportunity, in the first place? So you've got to take a bit of a punt on people. So I think for me, the thing they mightn't show, but again, they've shown a willingness to have a crack at maybe some random jobs, or they've done jobs, and the jobs they've done, you know, they've demonstrated a really good understanding. So again, when you're looking at a resume, they've been really clear in some of the stuff they've done, and I don't mean just generically, oh, I've done this, but they've actually probably dug into it a bit more, what they've learned. And then, just that curiosity, people saying, look, I've got no experience in nutrition, but I'd love to learn, yeah, so that curiosity. And then I think if this is probably a bit of that persistence piece, but they're willing to have a crack, like, those people who they'll follow up and go, oh, did you get my resume? I'm really interested in having a look at those roles. Personally, I can't resist at least interviewing people like that, because I just really admire that kind of that follow up and that persistence.
Yeah, pretty handy in the role. And I think like curiosity goes both ways. It's like if they're curious enough, then all of a sudden it sparks your curiosity, and you're like, I just for the sake of half an hour, let's grab this person and just see, and who knows where it'll go.
Yeah, I'm a bit. Yeah, I must admit, I'll probably I probably interview more people than I should, in the fact that I'm often just curious, and I go, I just want to chat to this person. And one of the guys we employed, a few years ago, Adam, who's still with the business, he'd come out of 25 years of banking, and he'd had 30 people reporting to him, and I was just curious. And the first question I asked him, he said, "Mate, why have you even applied for this job? Like, that's the reason I'm here. I just want to know, But that's part of that's part of the fun of it, I think." Yeah.
Absolutely. Mate, a couple of questions to finish on. This role becomes part of what is a smaller team inside a bigger business. Where do you guys see the MaxCare business going over the next few years, but also to the broader Maxum food team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Also, as Maxum Foods is, it's been a business that's always, evolving and growing, and it's a totally different business to what I joined, but at the same time, it's very similar culturally and everything. But for MaxCare, like, we've got some pretty clear sort of goals that we want to achieve around, I suppose, growth and sales. But I think if you look more broadly, like, we just want to be, like, our vision is to be number one in infant animal nutrition. And when we say number one, we don't mean the biggest, but we want to be the trusted advisor. We want to be the person, we want to be the business that if someone's looking to rear a young animal, that they think of us. And so within that, there's a fair bit of scope. And we used to actually say number one in Australia and New Zealand, but we got rid of that because ultimately we'd love to think we can be, a global business. So I suppose when you look at it like that, all that kind of sky's the limit, so which hopefully gets people excited, but it's something that we genuinely, we've kind of established the business over in New Zealand, and it's gone really well. And, we've dabbled in a little bit of export, but, that's certainly something we're keen to look at, broaden our product range. But yeah, just we really think there's a great opportunity in the service offering that we have, and how we can support farmers. So yeah, don't know if that's answered your question, mate, but that's kind of where we see us going.
You've definitely answered it with enough excitement to get people on. So kind of a final message to get people who are thinking about this. Why would you love to see your inbox flooded with applications from great people in ag?
Yeah, it's a great question. Or why would I love to see me? Because I just love to, well, I think the thing that holds some people back is going, oh, I've never been in sales before, for instance. And look, I was never in sales before. Pretty much everyone in our business has not come from a sales background. You've just got to be willing to have a crack and learn. So that'd be the one thing I'd say. But I'd also say, like, probably one of the most common bits of feedback we get once people start working with us for a while, Ollie's going, you guys talk a lot about great culture and about what you do as a business and, the passion and everything, but the feedback I often get is, but you guys actually live and breathe it. And so I'd probably say if if you're interested in what you've heard, is come and have a chat to us, because we'd like to think we're really genuine in our intent and what we want to do as a business, and we love seeing people grow. We love giving opportunity to people. So yeah, if you're half interested, yeah, give us a yell.
Mate, well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes on your Monday morning. I'm genuinely excited to see this kind of go out to the world. And I also just love this format, because I think in, say, the 20 odd minutes that we've chatted, it just gives potential applicants like an insight into the business, but also yourself. And I think that passion definitely comes through. And yeah, I think that beyond I'll say the traditional things that stand out, that investment that you're going to take to make in individuals who come and be part of the business is pretty exciting. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on for a chat.
No, thanks. I'll appreciate the opportunity. It's been good. Thank you.